Hi, welcome. We're going to do a workshop tonight on achieving your goals, achieving your health goals, and a lot of other different goals as well. And goals are really interesting because unless you have a map or a destination, it's really hard to figure out where in the world you're going. So when you get up in the morning and you got to visit the restroom, you have a destination. You know where you're going, you know why you're going there. And so that same process is what we want to apply to any of the areas of our life. Now in the worksheet you've been given, there are a number of different categories of where, what categories in our life we can actually start to design. I'm going to go through a process using our PowerPoint presentation tonight, but I also just wanted to give you a quick little background on why I think this is so important. You know, a lot of us have been really hit with things that happen in our life that really aren't ideal. And a lot of us are struggling with some of those things right now. And I think probably just about everybody in here would say there's some things in their life that maybe aren't perfect. They'd like them to be a little different than what they are. And when we were talking about introductions and the power of our mind, the power of our thought, there's a scripture in Proverbs. It says, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so he is." And so that power of the mind is so important. And you think about people that have achieved great things in their life. We have so many different people that we can look to who have achieved great things. I was looking today at a quote from Martin Luther King. He said, "Not everyone can be famous, but everyone can be great, because the essence of greatness is all about service." So serving is really a great thing because we reach outside of ourselves. And sometimes if we just have our goals that are just oriented towards what it's going to bring to me without how it's going to be of service to others, then sometimes we can kind of get into a loop where we're not really thinking about others. But we have a term in our family called otherness. And otherness is really about thinking about not just what we want, but what's going to be good for that person too. And the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them to do unto you. So as you're thinking about your goals, I would just think about how you achieving those goals will be a blessing to others as well, not just to yourself. And then there's a certain humanitarian component to achieving these goals. It's going to give you a lot more reward than to just have it be a self-serving goal. It'll have something that really benefits others as well. So it's a win-win. And I love that when you really can, make it so that you winning and someone else winning happens at the same time. Now that doesn't usually happen in sports, but it happens in life. That's what happens when you give someone a smile or say hello or give someone a hug or something like that. It can be a win-win. There was a great book, and when I first heard of it, I was kind of repelled by the title, but it's called The Greatest Salesman in the World. It's by a man named Og Mandino. And the essence of that was not about selling necessarily for your gain, but it was about these secret scrolls that this young man got taught about from this older guy, and it happened around 20 AD, something like that. Really fantastic book, and in there it talked about one of the first scrolls. The message of it was, "I will greet this day with love in my heart." And the exercise was to look at every single person that you come in contact with during the day and just look them in the eyes, and without saying anything, just give them your love. Just say, "I love you," with your eyes. If they receive it, great, because now it's a win-win. They felt your love and they gave it back. If they don't, then it's okay. They just act like a reflective mirror. It comes back and strengthens you, and it doesn't matter what the outcome was or what they did with it. At least you knew you were on purpose. So let's start going through the process here. And it's such a great time of year to to make goals and to really see progress in that regard. So this basically says your life is a canvas. What do you want to paint on it? It is really, from here, we've all been given a certain set of cards we've been dealt. We all look a certain way, we all have certain body types, we all have certain tendencies. We have genetic predispositions from our parents, from our relatives, our upbringing. I'm reminded of two twins whose mother died in childbirth. And the father was a rather despicable character. And he was a drunk, he was a drug addict, he was a thief, he was in and out of jail. So the two kids got sent to different homes that they got raised in, and they were both raised together. Well, it was interesting the course that each one of their lives went to, because one of them grew up to be a very successful guy who owned his own business. He had a family, a lovely wife, and his life just was really working. The other guy repeated the exact same formula that his father had done. And he was in and out of jail, he was had problems with drugs, he was always in trouble. So they interviewed these two guys, and they asked the first guy who was always in trouble, they said, why do you think your life turned out the way that it did? He goes, well, with a father like mine, what would you expect? And so they talked to the other guy who was very successful, and they said, why do you think your life turned out the way it did? He goes, well, with a father like mine, what would you expect? So what happens to us is not determining the outcome. We learn from what we go through, and what we decide to make out of it is really up to us. And that's really what tonight's all about. Where do you want to go from here? Because you know that old saying, today is the first day of the rest of your life? It's so true. We start brand new every day. I have a faith-based kind of belief system, and I like the fact that God told Moses what his name was when Moses said, well, who should I tell the Pharaoh to set the people free? He says, well, tell him I am that I am sent you. Well, it doesn't get any more present tense than I am that I am. We're right here, right now. The past is behind us, and we're moving forward from here, which is really kind of a refreshing thing, because this is all we have is this moment right here. We're not guaranteed to even wake up tomorrow. So, it's what we experience right here, right now that's most important. So let's go, let's talk about the 4-step process to achieving your goals. So step 1 is, what is your current situation? Now, I didn't put this in the worksheet, but this is something you could put. Is this in the worksheet?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, it is in the worksheet. You can basically take this time, and if tonight isn't the night, that's okay to do this, because there is a bit of work. But I would say, what are the key stressors that you're dealing with? Where's the challenges? What's your current situation? Positives and negatives. You might put a column on that, since there's about 12 lines. You might want to put the pluses and bam, 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 bam. Here's all the things that are working good. Yeah, I look great in the mirror. Okay, that's good. I've got a family. I've got a job. I have 2 legs. Whatever it is, right? And then on the other side, here's my current challenges. These are where the challenges are. So you can put the positives and the challenge areas. And that's what helps us determine where we're really going to go. So now we say, well, what is your goal? What does the ideal situation really look like? So if the ideal situation is what you want to paint on that canvas, that's where you have the different areas of your life, which I'm going to get into in just a second. But you can take and write health declaratives. You can write financial declaratives. You can write family declaratives. What a declarative is basically a sentence or a statement that's stated in the positive, which is stated as a goal. So you would maybe say, with my health, I want to be fit and flexible. I want to look as good as Billy Ray does when I'm 74. And and I do. You've inspired me right here tonight. Seriously. And so you can start to create different components of your health. I want to have energy. When I wake up in the morning, I want to have energy. I want to be able to carry that through the day. When it comes to all the different areas, so let's, so is this the first one?
Yeah.
Okay, so your health, basically think about all the different components. You want to be fit, you want to be trim, you want to be flexible, you want to be energetic, you want to slow the aging process down, you want to be an inspiration to others, you kind of create your own deal. And what I would like to suggest to you is tonight I'm going to demonstrate some of the techniques to help define if there are sabotage systems that are actually running tapes or loops in your subconscious that you may have a goal to be healthy, but you don't live healthy lifestyle. You just keep on doing the same thing over and over and eating that pint of Haagen-Dazs every night. And then instead of going to the gym, you watch TV. And then, you smoke or whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of things that are unhealthy things that we can do a lot of times. But the goal would be there, like, I really want to be healthy. I want to look like this, but I'm not willing to do what it takes to get there. So sometimes that's a sabotage mechanism that's actually going on. Excuse me. And I want to show you how to find those sabotage systems tonight and how to actually start to eradicate some of those, and some self-help techniques that you can be doing that you don't actually need a doctor to help you do, because there's some really powerful things out there. So that'll be one thing. Spiritually, what do you want your spiritual life to be like? Do you believe in a God? Do you not believe in a God? If you believe in a God, what do you want your relationship to be spiritually? How do you want to interact with people based on who you are at the very center core of your being? The Native Americans used a medicine wheel, and the medicine wheel, you've probably all seen it because you all live in America, but the Native Americans had this medicine wheel that's a circle and then a cross through it. And that circle represents the physical plane. And in that regard, the idea here was that we all have a spiritual center that's at the very center of the spirit. In fact, that's what our logo is really all about. There it is right there. So the spirit is at the center. The body is what we have outside of us, right? And then out from there emanates our energetic fields, which in Ayurvedic medicine they call the aura of the body, and the chakras or energy centers. There's lots of different cultures around the world that have studied a lot of different things. But the idea with that is to go to your spiritual core, see what that is, decide what you want that to be, and live from that center and let that emanate out from there. Your home. What do you want your home to be like? What do you want it to look like? Where do you want it to be? What's the goal? What kind of dwelling place do you want to have for yourself, your family? And there's lots of different things. And I think being realistic from where you are is a good stepping stone. I mean, you could have an ultimate ideal scenario, but I think if you set a goal that's so far from where you currently are, it can create quite a chasm and create some emotions that aren't necessarily positive, because you've kind of set yourself so far out there. Like if I think that I want to be Mr. Universe, right, and I'm 58 years old, right, and I think I really want to be Mr. Universe, but I still need to work and be a doctor. I can't train like that. I'm not that young. I mean, my chance to be Mr. Universe is long gone. Right? That would be an unrealistic goal.
Rye, on the other hand.
Now, Rye, on the other hand, he can still go there. But so I'm just saying, make them realistic processes that you could actually have stair steps, to get there, with levels of understanding as a doctor and as a person that may not know much about health. If I expect someone to be able to jump from here to there, that's a long way to go. But stair steps are really nice because you can actually go up a stairway and get to a higher level. So it's nice to be able to take gradual steps in the process. Family, what do you want your family relationships to be like? A lot of us have challenges in our family relationships. A lot of us have challenges forgiving people. You know, there's that in the great Lord's Prayer, it says, "Forgive us as we forgive others." So it is important to kind of think about who we have a list on, who we're holding a grudge against, and just consider starting to forgive people, even if it seems like they don't deserve it. I remember a story about there were some missionaries. There were 6 missionaries that flew down into the middle of the Amazon, and they got off their plane, and these native folks were kind of checking them all out, and the native folks decided, they were with them for a while, and they decided, boom, we're killing them. Boom, they just killed them all. And later on, the families of these men that had been killed, these 2 of the wives actually went down and became missionaries to those same people, and were able to forgive these people for what had happened, and actually build wonderful relationships. And it was a really touching, interesting story. They actually made a movie about it. It was like, wow, because I would find that pretty hard to forgive someone that had murdered my spouse. You know, it's a tough one to go. But if we hold it inside of us, it's only going to keep us from being healthy. Career. Where do you want to go with your career? What do you want to do? It's never too late. I didn't graduate from chiropractic school till I was 33. That was the year that we had my son. And, you know, so I didn't even start chiropractic school till I was 29. And I had guys in my class that had been attorneys, dentists. One guy was 58 years old when he graduated from chiropractic school. He just decided, I want to go do this. My life got changed, and I want to go help people. So we had people in their 50s in school, in my class. So it's never too late if you decide you want to do something. It's never too late to start making steps. Don't think it's out of your reach. Yeah, it's going to take work. But like a dream I had just about 3 weeks ago, I was reading this paragraph in my dream, and the last sentence of this paragraph said, "For where there is work, there is change." See, that's pretty simple, but it's rather profound. Whatever we put work into, we're going to see change in it. So it's not too late to really do anything with your life except maybe be Mr. Universe for a couple of us. All right, financial. Yeah, if you find yourself that you are wanting to go to a different financial status than you are right now, you can devise a plan. You know, you might find yourself in debt. You might find that you've only got, you know, $1 million set away for your for your retirement, and you really want $5 million for your retirement. All right, so build on it, you know, whatever that may be. Whether you're deep in debt and facing bankruptcy and you want to rebuild, or you're just getting started in life and you want to start to build. A great book on that is called The Richest Man in Babylon by, I think his name is George Clayson. And it basically just talks about the process of when you make money, you give 1/10 away as a thankfulness, and then you take 1/10 and you put it in long-term savings for investment or for retirement, and take another 1/10 and you put that for investment. So one is a long-term savings plan for your retirement, and one is an investment for buying a house or starting a business. And basically, you live off of 70%. Now, some people that have been extremely wealthy have taken those percentages way down. They you know, I just recently heard someone say, yeah, like Scottish folks, they have really deep pockets and really short arms. So some people they hold on to their money, they save it, they don't go spend anything. So a lot of people are better savers than others. Recreation, yeah, what do you like to do? Do you like to surf, hike, play golf, ski, bike, skimboard, body walk, whatever it is? There's lots of things. And I'd like you to kind of really think about what kind of recreational activities do you love to do, and that you want to be able to do as you continue to age. Your education. This is like career. What is the educational process that would lead you to the career? Is there anything you want to learn? I know people in their 60s that are learning Italian. You know, they're learning Chinese. You're just They want to keep their mind sharp and alive. And your ethics. How do you want to treat others? How do you want to be treated? You know, what really is the standard? What is your integrity? What do you want your relationships to be? You know, I remember a doctor talking to me one time about, I want every relationship in my life to be a 10-10 relationship. Now 10 means that it's a 10 from their vantage point and it's a 10 from my vantage point, independent of the level of intimacy. So you might, you know, with a spouse, you're going to have a level of 10 intimacy, but with a mailman, Alan, I have a 10-10 relationship with him. I see him all the time. Hey, Dr. G, how you doing? Hey, Alan, what's going on? You know, that's about as intimate as we are. You know, we maybe talk a little bit more. But that's maybe a level 1 or 2 intimacy. But the exchange feels good. It's a 10-10. So that would be one of those things in terms of ethics. How do you want to treat people? How do you want to be treated? Now, this is a really interesting one, and one of the most critical ones is, what obstacles stand in the way of achieving your goals? This is the one where the rubber meets the road, because then you start to look at, okay, so I want this, I'm here, so what's keeping me from getting there? What are the obstacles? Because that's what we have to strategize. That's where we have to put the plan into action. So what are the obstacles? Let's say a person's, let's say a kid is has got cancer. And let's say the parents don't have any money. And let's say that the only cancer treatments that they know of are medical cancer treatments that cost a lot of money. There are other types of treatments that a lot of people have done that don't cost a lot of money, and some people have gotten over cancer without spending all the money to do chemo and radiation and those things. But some of those people, that would be an obstacle. Here we've got this problem, but we don't have any money or resources to go get it. Well, then that's what that person has to strategize. They have to be looking into different organizations. You know, someone that's got money may want to put money into a project like that person. You know, the Make-A-Wish Foundation and all these different things that are out there. Doesn't mean you just stop at that point because you don't, there's an obstacle in your way. I mean, I love that, Chris, you did a great job of putting these things together. That's a bit of an obstacle in the road, isn't it? This guy looks like he went to a Tony Robbins walking on coals, but it looks like it's something different than that. I actually did. I walked over coals 2 times at a Tony Robbins seminar. It was pretty interesting. So that's an obstacle. So obstacles is what you have to identify, what's standing in the way right now of you going to where you want to go. And then that's how we're going to strategize a strategy to get beyond that. Let's go to the next one. So setting action steps to overcoming your obstacles and achieving your goals. This is where you start to think about, what would I have to do to overcome that obstacle? It was Einstein who said that a problem can never be solved on the same level it was created. So if you created the problem down here in your world down here, it's almost as though you need to take this to your advisor, and he'll look at it and go, oh, guess what? All you got to do is da-da-da-da-da. Oh, really? Yeah, that's all you got to do. So you can't solve a problem on the same level as created. Sometimes you need to get out of yourself and get into someone else's head. It says in the good book, in the multitude of counselors there is victory. So talking to different people that are like-minded, people that aren't going to necessarily poo-poo your ambitions and say, oh, you can't do that. You want to get like-minded people that really have your best interest at heart. There's something else I was going to say about identifying obstacles, strategizing. It'll come back to me. So this is where you start to now look at what strategies can I employ to get around this obstacle. And I think getting it from a different person's vantage point is really helpful. A lot of times, if you can put, I know what it was, if you put, by putting this obstacle out on paper, a lot of times it removes you from being stuck in the middle of it. Because now it's just not all in here running around, oh, I'm stuck, oh, I'm stuck. It's out there on paper. Now you look at it and go, okay, well, let's pretend that this isn't my problem. Let's pretend it's someone else and they've come and asked me to take a look at their problem. That, a lot of times, you just step on the other side, and now you're the patient and you're the doctor, and you just take turns being the patient and the doctor, because it's out there. Once you get it out on the paper, it doesn't necessarily feel like you're so stuck in it. So definitely give that some thought. Let's go back to that for a second. So current situation, identify the obstacles, strategize, and then it comes to take massive action. This is where you strategize and you develop an action plan, a step-by-step action plan. What do I need to do first? What do I need to do second, third, and fourth? What would be a logical prioritization of steps for this? And then you take massive action. And you just go to it. Like Ronnie's biceps didn't get as strong, as big as they are by sitting around and using the remote control. You should see this guy at the gym. You've seen him, Courtney. He lifts some weights. That's why he's got biceps like he does. Would you like to see those folks? Would you folks? I won't put on the spot. But they're massive. They're massive. So he's been taking massive action. See? You get massive arms. You take that kind of massive action. Then the other thing that goes right here is you have to check in with yourself. So if you set a goal for, I want 18-inch biceps, and you start with 12-inch, well, not 12. If you start with 12-inch biceps, some people have 12-inch biceps, then that means you've got to have incremental progress. So you want to check in with yourself. So once you take massive action, you have to have inspection times. That's what we do in our office. We do re-examinations, re-evaluations to see if we're getting closer to the mark. So you got to have this point right here is check your process. If you're not going towards the goal, you need to come back and re-strategize again of why you're not making the mark, why aren't you making action, and then re-strategize your plan and then take massive action again. And that's the way you actually achieve any goal. All right, let's go to the next one. NET, neuro-emotional technique. Phenomenal system. I want to quickly explain it to you. I talked to Scott Walker, who's the originator of NET, just last week. I sent him the little video link that you saw and thanked him for teaching me how to do NET technique. Here's what it's based on. If you go to the website, it's called netmindbody.com. Did you guys all see that in the video link? netmindbody.com. And it has explanations of how this whole thing came about and what it is. It's based off of conditioning. B.F. Skinner was the father of behavioral conditioning. He talked about if you get conditioned a certain way, you're going to behave that way as time goes on. And the concept really is that, like Pavlov, what he did with the dogs was every time he was going to feed the dog, he rang the bell, and then he fed him. Ring the bell, feed him. Ring the bell, feed him. Pretty soon, all he had to do was ring the bell, and the dog would start salivating, because he knew ring the bell means feed. Well, same thing, we can get conditioned with things that have happened to us. So the little kid that gets bit by a dog early on, every time he sees a dog, oh, he goes back into a fear. Fear comes up again because he was conditioned to think that based on something that happened before. Here's what happened. The Chinese emperors had so much foresight and wisdom with Chinese medicine that for 3,000 years, what they've been doing is they were collecting data. So they would take and read the pulses of a person. They would analyze and find out what the people's key health problems were. And then what they would do, did I bring my card down? I think I
have one down here for you.
You have an NET card? Can I see it? Yeah. What they did was they would gather data, and then every season, every quarter, they would have to give the data to the emperors. And what they would do is they would ask the people, they would find out what the health problems were, and then they would ask them, what are your reoccurring feelings that you have? And what they found is over all these 3,000 years was that people, for example, that had either large intestine problems or lung problems were stuck in the emotions of grief, sadness, yearning, anguish, crying, defensiveness. That was the whole profile for the lung and large intestine person. The person with liver and gallbladder problems were the ones that were stuck in anger, resentment, frustration, aggression, indecision. That's the profile for the liver. And so they're all put on this chart that we have here, all the different organ systems and what the emotions were that are associated with those organ systems. So either a person that is feeling a lot of those feelings of anger and resentment and frustration and aggression, they'll usually deliver liver or gallbladder problems. They'll usually manifest those things. Vice versa, people with liver stress, gallbladder stress, commonly feel those feelings as their predominant feelings. Does that make sense? Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, now here's this really cool thing. Take that back a second. Now, what they've done is, in Chinese medicine, you have water, wood, fire, earth, and metal. And the organ systems are associated, like the water element represents the kidney and the bladder. The wood, the liver, and the gallbladder. Fire, small intestine, thyroid, adrenals, heart, sex organs. Stomach, spleen for earth. Large intestine has lung, and these are called paired meridians. I'm not going to try to explain Chinese medicine tonight, but just to let you know, there are like closets that are associated with organ systems that are associated with specific feelings. And when we demonstrate this tonight, you're going to see me go through it. Now, when an acupuncturist does a pulse analysis, they put their hand on the pulse points, and they actually feel the pulses. What we're going to do is we're going to use kinesiology and see if there are active pulse points that relate to specific emotions. So when I first went to an NET seminar, this was in 1989, and so they're explaining how this stuff works. I'm going, okay, well, this is a bit of a stretch. It's kind of new, but I'm open to learning new stuff. So they said, okay, now we want you to go through and do the kinesiological testing. I was already an applied kinesiologist, and I learned all how to do that. It was just a new application. And so they said, okay, so you pair up with someone. So they start to do muscle testing, and they start checking the pulse points. And when they got to my liver gallbladder pulse point, my arm went completely down. I tried so hard to go, wait a minute. You mean you put your finger there and my arm went weak? And they go, yeah, that's what happened. And let's try it again. Go through all of them. None of them weakened me. They touched that pulse point, and boom, I just dropped. It's like, now I was starting to get angry just that my arm was dropping, and that's the biggest liver emotion there is anger. So I'm getting angry at the guy. Well, do it again. Wait a minute. This is a crock. I'm thinking to myself, but sure enough, liver is what showed up. So then they start muscle testing through. When you're doing the NET technique, it's like there's three of us here. There's your body consciously. There's your body consciously, there's your body subconsciously, or other than conscious, and me, the practitioner. And you and I get to watch what your body says is going on. So he starts going through muscle testing, and he says, is it anger? Boom. And every time he said anger, I could not hold my arm up. Now I'm getting angry again. So anyhow, what it turned up is he said, okay, now anger. Now there's three main areas of our life, as you'll see tonight. There's money, job, finances, career. That's all one. Then there's love or relationship. And then there's you. So money, love, and you are the three main categories. So he says, okay, is it about money? And sure enough, money. Anger about money? I'm not really angry. Well, maybe I am. Those guys we had this deal, and then they changed about me. And okay, well, they said, okay, so there's something going on now? Yeah, boom. I thought about it, and I couldn't hold my arm up. And then they trace it back to an origination point, like what was the age when the little kid got bit by the dog? So he starts muscle testing and going through and finding out that the first time that I showed an anger response was when I was 5 years old. So I'm going, 5 years old, angry about money. I'm going, this is really out there. He goes, I know, it may sound a little weird. Let's just say you and I are out to lunch, and we're talking about your life as a kid, and you're 5 years old, and what's going on at 5? I go, geez, I'm in kindergarten, I don't know, there's not really much going on. Well, okay, no, nothing about money? No, I can't think of anything. And, okay, well, I said, well, let me think. I said, I do remember I loved school, I loved kindergarten, and I couldn't wait to get back to school because the last day of school was the school picnic. And everybody's playing games and there was food and candy and everything. It was awesome. I couldn't wait to get back to school. And I said, so this is going to be good. So when do I go back to school? I said, well, Gary, this is summer. I said, what's summer? They said, well, it's a time where you don't go to school for about 3 months. And then you come back to school. I said, oh, okay. So, well, that'll be good. I can do that. And this will be really fun. But she says, well, Gary, you're not going to that school. I said, well, why not? She goes, well, that's a private school, honey. You went there for kindergarten. You're going to public school. And I do remember I was angry. I mean, I wanted to go back and see my friends and have that fun. And so they said, okay, think about that. I said, why can't we do it? Because we don't have the money to pay for that, honey. So anger about money, kaboom. That was my first experience. So at 5, I had anger about money. So you have to go back, and basically, it's like pulling the weed. You have to get the very tip of the root to get the weed out, otherwise it'll grow back. That's why you go back to an origination point. That's amazing to see the life stories that come up out of people, and I've had so much incredible, so many breakthroughs with people. I could tell you stories and stories, and we'd be here all night, but that's not the goal. All right, so that's the basics on NET. There's a technique within NET called sabotage, an anti-sabotage technique. And sometimes it does seem like people just shoot themselves in the foot or punch themselves, or they're just chasing your tail around and around and around. And we've already addressed that. It's like you have a goal, but somehow you just don't seem to get it. Paul said it seemed, my spirit is willing, but my flesh is weak. Why do I keep on doing the things that I don't want to do? You know, it's like, what's going on here? What is it? You know. So it's really neat to be able to see what happens with this. Let's go to the next one. So Anthony Robbins, has a process called 5 steps for turning your dreams into reality. The path to success is to take massive determined action. Let's go to the next one. So get triggered, that means get really clear on what you want to do, what your trigger is. Begin to imagine and envision the new possibilities, become emotionally engaged. Create a clear result and commit to it, and then take massive action. It's more or less very similar to what we already talked about. Question and answers. So here's what I thought I'd like to do first. I've covered a lot of topics. What questions has this brought up? Anything that, don't be shy about asking, but what has it brought up to you? Does anybody have anything?
How do you find out, just like you found out, through this NET?
Yeah, through
the NET, that's how you find out about those previous emotions?
Yeah. That are
things that might be preventing you from moving forward with.
And what I'd like to do is just start to demonstrate for anybody who's willing to, you know, kind of be up front and see if they would like a breakthrough. Yeah. Okay, good. All right, so Lonnie, why don't you come right over here? All right. It's my good friend Ron Pringle, so nice of him to volunteer. All right, so is there a goal that you'd like to check yourself on that seems like at sometimes you might consciously want it to go there, but on another level it may seem like you're having a challenge actually having that be realized?
I would like to learn how to be more accepting of people, places, things, and situations being exactly the way they're supposed to be, as opposed to me trying to change them.
So accepting what is in
Everything,
a sense.
just everyone and everything.
All right, so how would you put that into a concise sentence that could be kind of...
I wish the sound of my wife's voice wasn't like an ice pick in my eardrum.
That came quick.
All right, you want to start with...
But I'm not kidding.
All right, so you want to say, we could do this, we could say, I'm okay with Ashley, if you want to.
Yeah, let's do this.
I'm okay with the sound of Ashley's voice.
Okay, but wait a minute. She could never see
Yeah,
us.
okay.
I was just kidding.
All right, he was
No,
totally
I'm
kidding.
not.
All right.
Don't email it to her. Make sure she's edited off the
This is
list.
going on YouTube.
Okay.
I thought we were in the tree of trust in the map.
All right, so would it actually be, all right, so just do this for a second. Just hold your arm up. He's strong as a rock. Let's make sure that his polarity is on. Yeah. So he's a testable circuit, means his VGA monitor is on, and we can actually get into the files and start to access. So why don't you do this for a second? Why don't you think about the kind of talking or whatever it is that actually makes you feel the emotion that you were feeling.
So easily to access.
Let's try that. Let's start there. Well, now just hold in your mind the mental image of what she's saying and how it's making you feel. Okay, can you picture that? Yeah, now a big fella loses all of his strength when he thinks about that. Yeah. Now, this is not an arm wrestle, so, I mean, he could easily kill me, he'd probably break my arm in an arm wrestle.
That's true.
So, all right. So, why don't you say, how could you put that? Would you say, like a declarative, an ideal would be, I'm okay with hearing my wife's advice, or whatever it is that, how would you say it? Because this will be a healing process.
Okay,
The ideal goal.
I don't want to sound like an asshole when I say this, but.
All right, let's don't.
Oh, okay.
All right.
I know when she talks to me that she really just loves me, and that's just the way that she talks.
Okay, so I'm okay with hearing, well, why don't we start with, I'm okay with hearing Ashley. Is there a certain thing that happens when she'll say a certain thing that kind of is like,
Yeah,
what is it?
yeah. It's hard to explain in an open forum.
All right, yes, exactly. Okay, so how about if we just do this? Let's say I'm okay with enjoying hearing what my wife has to
Okay,
say.
I'm okay with enjoying the tone and tenor and sound of my wife's voice, no
Okay.
matter what.
All right. And body says no. All right. So let's just see what is associated with that, because this might very well relate to something completely different that his wife's voice is activated within him that completely could be not related to
Maybe it
this
was
at all.
my last wife.
It could be. All right? So say that again.
Maybe it was my
No,
last
no,
wife.
no. Say, I'm okay with.
I'm okay with the sound of my wife's voice, no matter what.
Okay, I've got a hot one. Here it is. It's in one of these. Say it again.
I'm okay with the sound of my wife's voice.
Not there.
No matter what.
Say it again.
I'm okay with the
Okay.
sound of my wife's
So
voice.
here's what I've done. The pulse points on the wrist, there's 4, there, and there, okay? On the NET chart, it actually shows them. So right here, I'm on the stomach, pancreas, and spleen meridian. So on the chart, if I get, these are your readers, right?
We haven't lost anyone yet. This is
These
good.
work.
I think we're doing all right.
All right.
Counting.
So, stomach, spleen, and pancreas. So the emotions associated with the stomach, spleen, and pancreas are these. Now I'm going to say these out loud. So say that again.
I'm okay with the sound of my wife's voice.
Okay. And say it again.
I'm okay with the sound of my wife's voice.
Okay, we got it. It's in that closet.
How do you know? Because his arm didn't go down.
That's right, because he got strong.
He hit
When
me
I'm
on the
touching the pulse point, I found
Pulse in
a
the
pulse
circuit.
point that's active, that's associated with this.
Issue.
It's not when the arm goes down?
He's not congruent. No, he weakens. He's incongruent with that statement. He's not congruent with
Because
that
it looks
statement.
subtle from here.
It looks subtle.
Yeah.
We'll let her come
Your neck,
first.
sister.
Hold, push. So he's strong as a rock and I can't budge him.
Yeah.
Say, I'm okay with the sound of my wife's voice.
I'm okay with the sound of my wife's voice.
No. And now, when I go to this, say it again.
I'm okay with the sound of my wife's voice.
And he's strong as a rock,
That's awesome.
okay?
So, but he was strong for all those 4 pulse points, I thought.
Yeah, because all I did was I checked right side versus left side, and then I went point by point. I just so happened to get it on the second one.
Yeah.
I found the closet
There's
that's
4.
associated with this. There's 4 points. Okay?
If you
All
come,
right.
he'll show you.
Yeah. But we'll try it with you.
It's awesome.
Let's see, where do I do it?
Well, I'll give you some readers, Zach.
Yeah, these are bigger and stronger.
Those are good, they're.
I like them, I like them.
You
All
can
right,
rock those.
all
We're
right.
good.
Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna read out the emotions that are associated with this system.
In this closet.
Yeah, take your hand away. Is it being overly sympathetic? Low self-esteem? I know that he does not have low self-esteem. All right, disgust, expanded importance of self, obsession, egotistic, despair, nervous, stifled, lives through others, overly concerned, hopelessness, lack of control over events. There it is.
That's what I was gonna get.
Lack of control over events. Yeah. So, lack of control over events.
So
So
Eric,
see,
where's
his
the
body,
PS?
his body is having a response. Well, let's see.
My arm can turn It's right in the center
Strong
of her face.
push, strong as a rock,
Yes.
lack of control. So what I'm doing is I'm saying it out loud, his body's having a response. Lack of control over events. There it is. That's it.
Because he walked in here and said, I wanna be okay with that.
All right, so now, here's what we're gonna do. When your wife says certain things, you don't necessarily have the control to determine if she's gonna say, what she's gonna say, when she's gonna say
No,
it.
I can never.
That's lack of control over the events of his wife saying whatever she's gonna say that
No
ends
mute
up.
button.
Okay, does that all make sense? Everybody tracking with me? All right. All right, your shoulders.
Yeah.
Now, if you start to feel it go weak, just let it go.
Okay.
Don't fight it. So, did you experience lack of control over events at an earlier time in your life that is now affecting that feeling right now with what you're experiencing with your life? Yeah. So lack of control over events. Yeah. Earlier in your life. Good. Conception to 10. Conception to 10. Conception to 5. 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old. So lack of control over events at 10. So this is where, people's lives start to open up. And I remember I got led through a process. It took me right to the point where my dad, when I was 9, he was 39 when he died. So I got taken right into, my story, where it was dramatic. So you remember something, situation or something happening to you at 10 that felt like there was lack of control over events that were happening in your life?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I can
Can
trace
you
it.
think of one?
Well, my mom got divorced from this dude that had been my father figure, and there was a lot of tumultuousness around that.
Can you remember the lack of control over those events?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. Picture that. There it is. There it is. All right. Is there
I mean,
an
it's the only
earlier time?
thing that
Well,
would
no, that
happen at
works. Is there an earlier time where you felt lack of control over events that we need to go back to that's related to what this current one is? No, lack of control over events at 10. Sometimes there'll be an earlier thing that happened, very early. But for some reason, this one at 10 seems to be associated with this.
Divorce is always a train wreck for kids, no matter what.
It is, it's tough to go through, and those that have gone through divorces are well aware of that. So Ron, just picture the feeling, maybe at the height of it, close your eyes and just think back to the point where you felt the most lack of control over the events that were going on in your
Got it.
life. Picture it, there it is, that's definitely it. Okay, so now all you're gonna do, Ronnie, is take your, oops. Now, bring this little finger over here, good. Put this hand on your forehead, like this.
Now we
Plus
get to
this
see
one.
the arms.
Good.
There they come out now.
Alright, alright. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go back, see the movie. There's little Ronnie. He's 10. He's going through a tough time. He's got lack of control over the events that are going on. I want you to start breathing and go into it. Allow yourself to feel it again. Because what we resist has a tendency to persist. So this is the time to go into it, feel it, breathe into it. Every breath out, just let it go. Just keep on going. Just keep on breathing into it. This is the way to start deleting the effect of that negative emotion on our bodies, on our health, and on our current situations. The height of it, when you felt the least control. Good. Take your hand off. Good job. Hold. Now, I want you to go back to being 10 and picture that the moment when you felt the least of control over the situation. Picture that again. There we go. There we go. Awesome. Awesome. That's great. Well, that's one thing you've been carrying around like a big boulder in your backpack for a long time.
Boulder on my shoulder, feeling kind of older.
All right.
That was awesome.
So now, check this out. With a topic like the one we started with, there may be multiple things underneath that statement. Tony Robbins talks about if there's a belief system, it's a lot of times it's like the top of a table. And the emotions that hold the belief system up can be multiple. There can be many legs underneath the table. The process of NET allows us to go in and find out what are those feelings and when do they first get associated holding up that belief system. And then we basically can knock them out one by one and do this delete process. It's a fascinating
If you
process.
block your mind about something, can you still find out about it?
Uh-huh.
You block
Yeah.
something out?
Well, if you block something out, meaning you didn't want to still remember it anymore,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of times that stuff will still come up if you're open to doing it. And that's what I usually ask people, like the question I was asking, does anybody want to play? Does anybody want to come up and kind of open up the novel and see what's there, basically. So why don't you, Ronnie, right now just say, I'm okay with hearing the sound of my wife's
I'm
voice.
okay with hearing the sound of my wife's voice.
Well, right now, that was a pretty big one.
Can't come over every day and do it.
That's awesome. Now, a lot of times, a topic like that may have 7 or 8 different emotions that are related to this key issue right now, but that can go back into all sorts of things. And thanks, Ryan. Yep. I appreciate that. I want to tell you one quick little story that correlates to this, and then if someone else wants to have a little demo with a goal that you may have, you're welcome to do that. But a little lady was sitting in my lobby one day, and I was washing my hands in between patients, and she was coughing. And I said, boy, I was just thinking, man, this lady's really got a cough. And right when I looked out, she was pulling the handkerchief away from her mouth, and it was bloody. I'm going, oh, geez, this poor little lady. So I looked at her name, and she told me that I could tell this story, so I'm not imposing on privacy. Her name was Christine. And so I sit down next to her and I say, hi, Mrs. So-and-so, I'm Dr. Arthur. Oh, hi, Dr. Arthur. I said, I noticed you got quite a cough. She goes, yeah, I do. I said, I noticed there's blood on your handkerchief. She goes, yeah. I said, you need to get to the hospital. And she stared me down. She squinted at me. She said, listen here, Dr. Arthur. The only reason I'm here is because I heard you help people get well. And if you're not even going to take me back and do what you do, then I'm going to leave right now. Okay, fair enough. She goes, well, the thing you don't know is I've been in and out of the hospital for the last 2 years. They've given me every damn drug that they got, and nothing's working, and I'm still having this cough, and it's bleeding from my lungs. I said, okay, well, come on down. Well, using kinesiology and using our four-system approach of that the body's designed to heal itself, and there's four main systems of the body: the structural system, the biochemical system, the emotional system, the energetic system. So in my analysis, I did a number of different things. Number one, I found that I suspected that she had a resistant strain of bacteria, kind of like a MRSA or something like that. I also I detected that there's probably a yeast and probably a virus that she was dealing with as well. Doing some kinesiological workups, I suspected these things. Then I went to the acupuncture points for the lungs. Right here and here, when I muscle tested her, she completely weakened. I tested the lung point on the arms, completely weakened. So I know now I've got 2 out of 2. I went to the nerve supply to her lungs, and when I touched the spine, it was really sore right there. I said, I need to take some films of that. I've got a suspicion that perhaps the vertebra is rotated out of place, putting pressure on the nerves that go to the lungs. And then the last thing I did was I said, now, this started 2 years ago. And she said, yeah. I said, well, what was going on 2 years ago? And she looked at me, and tears started to just roll from her eyes. And her husband, she said, my husband of 67 years died. And that's it. Now you look at the profile of what the Chinese medicine approach says: grief, sadness, yearning, anguish, crying, cloudy thinking. That's the profile of a lung person. So after I did my analysis, I took her films and everything, I sat down with her, I said, you know, I found a lot of things here that I think could be associated with your problem. But I said, but Christine, I hesitate to take your case on. She says, well, why is that? I said, well, with a problem like this that's been going on this long, if you don't follow through and are completely compliant with what I'm going to lay out, I don't think we have a very good chance of making this happen. She goes, well, what's that going to entail? I said, you're going to have to take multiple supplements. We need to start getting in and releasing a lot of these stored emotions. We need to start doing some very gentle techniques to get the pressure off the nerves here. We need to stimulate acupuncture points using lasers and things like that. And I said, you know, and I would probably just start with 12 visits over the next 4 weeks and see if we make any progress at all. That's what I would need. And she goes, I'll do it. I'll do it. Where else am I going to go? What else am I going to do? Well, 12 weeks later, no, actually 6 weeks later, she was completely well.
Awesome.
It was awesome to see her. She was 86 years old. But that's when you take a four-system approach like that, and you start clearing out the emotions. We had to do like 4 half-hour sessions on just clearing emotional stress from her body, from her lungs.
And what was her alternative? Was getting more drugs and, you know, from the
There
hospital
wasn't, she was already sick and tired of that.
Yeah, there's
So-
really no
It
alternative.
wasn't working.
Well, I mean, there are other things, there's acupuncture, and we try to work along those lines, but.
But I mean, in terms of traditional
Right,
approaches.
there's not a lot left going on there. So, does anybody have a goal? Now, Ronnie actually brought up something that is a stressor for him. Does anybody have a goal that they find is sometimes seeming like it's hard to actually move towards? Like some people with chronic health problems, I'll have them say, I'm okay with being completely well. And a lot of those people just go kaboom. They just completely weaken. So they have a belief system, maybe because they've struggled for so long, they have a belief system that says that it's maybe not possible. Does anybody want to try anything?
I will.
Yeah?
I'm
Okay.
scared, but I'll do it.
All right, come on up.
I'm super shy, so if I can do it, you can too.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. So, tell me what's going on.
A lot of times I'll go around and I'll say, I have a bad neck, and then I thought, that's not good language to use about my neck. Maybe I should say, I have a weak neck, or I'm having issues with my neck, or some better verbiage. And then somebody asked me, I said, oh, when I was in 4th grade, I woke up with a crick in my neck, and it was like this for a week. And I do think that there's always a weak physical with an emotional component.
Right.
And I read Louise Hay's book,
Yeah.
and she said it's stubbornness, and I'm not stubborn. My husband said, "You're the most stubborn person I know." So, I think I've been so stuck in this neck thing
Yeah.
that I would like to get to the root of it. Or
Awesome, awesome. I had a gal that came in right about your age, and she had a bad neck problem. We did the standard structural work, and she was about 50% better after about 3 visits. And then, I was like going through the kinesiology, and I go, I just think there's something else here. Would you put your hand on your neck? This is a neat way to do it, because you can go to a point of pain, and you can see if there's an emotional charge under a point of pain. So we can enter into the computer in a couple different ways. Like one way would be this way. Well, here's what it was with this lady. I had her touch her neck and touch her hand over her forehead, which is the frontal lobe, is where the brain processes emotions. And sure enough, when she touched here, when I touched here and she touched her forehead, she completely weakened. So I knew there was a mind-body component to the pain. So I said, I got that there's some emotion here that's affecting your pain. She said, oh. I said, are you going through anything? She goes, maybe like a divorce? I get, yeah. She goes, yeah, I found my husband cheating with my best friend, and I'm divorcing her. And so here she's got neck pain. Sure enough, we cleared out about 4 things, and then I didn't see her again for about 8 months. About 8 months later, she comes down the hall, like leading her friend by the hand. Come on, let's go in here. She had her friend in there. She goes, I know she's got what I've got, and I hadn't seen her, so I wondered how she ever was. She says, yeah, after you did that, all my neck pain went away.
Yay.
So let's just see. Hold. So why don't you say, first off, push into my hand. Good. Let's just check and see if your computer's on. Okay. Now, her computer isn't on, so right now I've got to reboot the computer. So this is
How can you tell that,
well,
are you feeling
this is the
it?
polarity point.
Right.
And in Chinese medicine, when you put 2 magnets together,
Right.
north poles, they repel. So one side of my finger is positive charge, one's a negative charge, and she should weaken. So now I've got to see where I need to reboot the system. So
Okay.
hold. So now I go through what are called visceral organ points. So here, 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 there. Hold strong, push, right there. Now this is where I'm going to reboot the computer. Breathe in. Blow it out. I'm going to give your organ a little tune-up. Blow it out. Good. Keep breathing. Good.
This works every time. Every time this works.
There you go.
That's interesting you did that, because the other day, I felt it kind of rise on its own, like when you're pregnant and your kid's moving, I thought,
Yeah.
I don't think I have like an alien in there anymore. Or,
That's right where the ileocecal valve is. Hold strong, don't let me push. And now we come here, and she's strong, and come to the polarity point, and boom. Now she's testable. Okay?
Wow.
So now we can enter 2 different ways. We can say, I'm okay with having my neck be pain-free, having a healthy, pain-free neck. Let's try that way.
I'm okay with having a pain-free neck.
And her body is incongruent with that.
Not body.
Because her experience is something far different than that, isn't it?
Right.
Okay?
Uh-huh.
Now, here's the other way to go into the system. Put your hand on the neck where it hurts the most. Okay, good. Hold strong. Don't let me push. So she doesn't weaken in the clear. I'm asking body, and now I'm asking, is there a mind-body component? Kaboom. There she is. Now take your hand
I'm
off.
gonna be healed.
Good. Now we're in the computer under mind-body, emotions affecting this part of the body.
Uh-huh.
So now we're going to go through, scan the acupuncture meridian systems,
4
and
points.
see where we're going to be.
Mhm.
Hold. So this side, it's not on that side of the body. Now this side of the body. Hold. And there it is. It's one of these. So let's see which one. This one. This one. That one. This is the lung, large intestine meridian. So now I know what the emotions are associated with that, so let's go through it together. Okay. So is this grief? Is it sadness? Is it yearning? Is it yearning? So yearning, what does yearning mean to you?
that you're missing something.
Right. So you're wishing that you had something that you don't feel that you have. So yearning for something. Yeah, okay. So yearning for something in the category of money, job, finances, career, places, or things. No. Yearning in a relationship with someone. Oh, no. Yearning within yourself. Yes. So it would be yearning to be free of this pain in your neck, in a sense. Yeah. Isn't it interesting that the old adages that we have, that guy's a real pain in the butt, she's a real pain in the neck, you know? I mean, something to that.
That's true.
So, we've got that she's yearning to be pain-free. Yeah. So that makes total sense from where we are. Okay. So is there an earlier time in your life where you were yearning for something and you had a feeling or a sense that you didn't have what you wanted to have and you were yearning for something, like pining for something? Yes. And that would be the earliest time. So there may be many things between the now and the earliest, but anything that's not the earliest, we're going to take care of, because when we do a delete on the earliest, it's like taking dominoes and going all the way to now. So if you don't go back to the earliest one, that tape is still running. And what we want to do is using NET, it's like erasing a cassette tape by just pushing record and fast forward. Okay, hold. So yearning for something, yeah. And yearning first at conception to 10 years old. Yeah, conception to 10 years old. Conception to 5 years old, strong, push. Conception to 5 years old. 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old. 8, 9 years old. So you're yearning for something at 9. Carol, what would that be?
I knew just when you started talking about it, my parents, my dad was a preacher. And so I think you always feel guilty when you want more. There was a big split at the church, so I think it was that lack of connection. And you feel maybe a guilt for asking if it's like a church involved thing. Does it make sense?
Mm. Tell me more. So the yearning would have been, you were yearning for it to be different than it was? Or?
There was a big split at my at the church, and my parents were really involved, and there were a lot of meetings at night. And I remember being in a hallway, looking in, wanting to be a part of it.
Oh,
Or
so
I think they were so consumed in trying to do a good job with taking care of all these people, but I was maybe shut out.
so
Not
you were kind of
intentionally,
yearning to be involved in what was so important
or
to your parents?
not so disconnected.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So yearning to be more involved in the process. Yeah. So in the bigger picture, so yearning to feel like you make a difference, or you would be valued enough to be part of the whole thing?
Maybe you're just more of a connection, maybe that was it.
All right, so yearning to be more connected. Yearning to be more connected with your parents? Yeah. And more connected with making a positive difference too? Yeah. So yearning to be maybe experiencing more than you were at the time. What I'm trying to do is get down to the lowest common denominator that maybe isn't just about that specific moment, but a grander.
Well, my brother and I joke that we had benign neglect.
Oh.
You know, not, and I think a lot of times people in those helping,
Right.
you know,
So maybe yearning to be loved more by your parents and thought that you were
yeah.
important. Yeah. So yearning to be loved, yeah, at 9. Okay, good. And even beforehand, yearning to be loved more? Oh. So 9 was kind of a pinnacle of that feeling. Can you go there and
Maybe that's
just,
when I had that neck.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, is that when the neck crick asked? I just was gonna
Maybe.
ask you that out loud.
so,
I never thought of that.
it very well could be. So picture, if you would, you being 9 and really yearning to be loved, adored, cherished by your parents for who you are and who you are as a person. Just picture that. There it is. Okay, good. So all I want you to do now is put this finger on that pulse point, put this hand on your forehead. So I want you just to take the time, go back to you being 9, and just picture that yearning. Yearning to be loved, cherished, adored, thought highly of, brought into the fold, your feelings. I want you to breathe deeply. This is a deep one. I want you to really breathe deeply. The bigger you breathe, the more your body will release this, and the sooner it will release. Just keep on breathing. You're a little 9-year-old, and you're really yearning to be part of it, yearning to be involved, yearning to be cared for. Breathe deeply. Keep going. You're doing good. And picture feeling like at that time that you weren't experiencing as much of that as you wanted to be, and you were yearning to feel that. Just keep your breathing in. And you feel like you've really gotten the feeling, and where there's not really much more of the feeling to breathe into, you can take your hands off. Good. All right, good job. I have lots of tissues in my office when I do this, because a lot of times we really get to key issues with people. So I want you to picture yearning to be loved by mom and dad at 9. Good. All right, good. Now, picture yearning to be free of neck pain and to have your neck feel good. Picture that. Good. All right, awesome. So that's the first layer on this neck. So put your hand here. Good. And then let's go here. And there's another layer that's there. Now for tonight's thing, we're not going to go all the way through, but here's one thing I can do is there's one more emotion, hold, one more emotion, 2 more emotions, 3 more emotions, 4 more emotions, 5 more emotions. I'm getting there's probably 5 more. And with this, keep your hand there for a second. I also want to check for homeopathic. And there is a homeopathic remedy that would also help with the lungs. It's called metal. And based on that other chart there, metal is the Chinese medicine element that's associated with the lungs. So there's a homeopathic remedy, and when you see Dr. Costa again, you might want to set up to do a half-hour NET session where you close the door and then just work right off of your point of pain and see if it doesn't help.
Okay.
Because it's really cool. Thanks so much for coming up. So it's pretty cool to see
Yeah.
how things start to unwind in the layers.
Could I share?
Yeah.
So, in Erin's case here, she has a myotonic dystrophy. It was a hereditary. Her brother also has this.
Yeah.
She didn't really have any symptoms until when?
It was gradually, but I always thought, oh no, can I, my neck, when I had arthritis in my neck, I can't keep my neck straight, sometimes it's, and I said, what's baby, I'm not working out, and I always found an excuse why I had those, and then I was thinking myself, okay, now I know why, I don't need the symptoms, but before it was like, maybe I'm not working out, maybe I don't work my neck, or maybe I hurt myself, and I always found an excuse for it, until I was told, okay, I'm myotonic, and I'm not going to, okay, that makes sense.
Mm. How long ago was it? 4 years ago?
7 years ago.
7 years ago.
But nobody found out that I was 44 years ago.
Mm. Well, sometimes, some of these things that are really genetic predispositions and they're in your genes, that you're programmed.
We didn't know, my mom didn't have it, even my grandma, even nobody in my family. We don't even know how far to go back because apparently it's from the mom, but nobody in the family for years, grandpa, they never had it.
Yeah. Well, one thing I know is this. Our bodies are programmed to heal themselves. If you think about 2 little cells, one from mom, one from dad, both with DNA programs running, they come together, and 9 months later, there's a masterpiece that comes out. Now, we all have our challenges and our genetic predispositions, but I do know the body's designed to heal itself. And a lot of times, it's just getting the stress out of the way so the body can go ahead and heal. because I've seen miracle after miracle after miracle happen.
So believe somebody with recognition could be better.
She's had a few traumatic situations
Yeah.
in her life that, you know,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
she probably needs to address.
like most of us, have, and some of them much more traumatic than others,
Right.
you know? It all remains to be seen, it's always, you do things and you see if you get a result. That's like checking in, once you take massive action. So in your goal setting process, here's the current situation, you've got this condition, here's the obstacles that you have, here's what you want, here's the obstacles, and now you figure out a strategy. And this could very well be a strategy that you may want to, look into. And of course, I would love to help.
But then you have to really come out and you can't, you have to come out and see a true feeling, and I'm not comfortable with that.
Well, of course, especially not in a class type environment.
I wouldn't even tell my own doctor. There's things that I would never tell a doctor, no
Uh-huh.
matter what.
Well, and that's, of course, everyone's prerogative, But remember that
Even
saying.
though I want to get better, I'm not.
You gotta think of solutions.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Well, what we resist will persist.
yeah, I
Yeah.
know that.
So it may be something that, you get to a point where you say, like in Network, when the guy said, I'm mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take it
anymore.
anymore,
Peter
You may
Finch,
get to that point.
Peter
May-
Finch,
Yeah, Peter Finch.
1976.
You may get to that point where you go, you know what? I'm not gonna do it. My past does not equal my future, and I'm not gonna do what I've done before. Because doing what you've done is not gonna get you where you wanna go. Doing what got you here will not get you there. So,
But you know what? I don't have to do it in a class, but I could
No.
get somebody from one-to-one.
of course, that's what I was mentioning. And I would be honored to do that with you. And, we have yes, we are doing something, we're just reaching out and wanting to help people. We're doing, a New Year's, New Year, New You Health Pass. What we basically do is an exam, and the exam is basically tailored to what your specific problems are. And we'll basically do a whole workup if we need to take films or whatever, and then talk to you about it. And that can usually be $400 to $500. We're doing it for $47, just as a gift to our community. And that's good through February 28th. So anyhow, thanks so much for coming, and if anybody wants to stay after and we can do a couple more, I think that'd be great. And thanks so much for watching. I know it went a little longer than I expected, but that's how life is. Thanks.